Cool. Well, yeah, Tom, as long as you're ready, I'd love to kick off. But welcome again to all of our hackers who have joined us this afternoon. It's really great to see you all here and to see you in attendance again right the way through our 2 weeks of workshops. I do really hope that you've enjoyed them, and any questions on anything about the hackathon, but particularly in accessing the recordings or anything like that, please do feel free to reach out to me on Discord or book a call. I'll drop all of the links in the chat for us. But yeah, for the final session, it sounds like we've got a bit of a treat. So I'm really excited to have Tom Moore from Mona join us on the stage today. But yeah, I do hope you enjoy the session. And Tom, I'd love to hand over to you whenever you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. So, hi all, I'm Tom. I'm a Unity developer here at Mona. Mona, if you don't know, is a metaverse platform where we create digital spaces and experiences. People can join. You can share them. You can create games. You can create art galleries. You can create whatever you can imagine, really. Inside of Mona, we have this feature called visual scripting, and that's what the session is going to be about. So I've got this like self-sample project set up that we'll go through, and I also have some links that I will share. So here's this space that I have prepared for the session. I could share a link here if anyone wants to jump in. They can totally do so and explore it in their own time or during the session, whatever you feel like. So essentially, visual scripting is a way in Mona to create interactive functionality. So what I've created here is this like NPC dialogue system where you can walk up to this like hologram guy and you can have a chat with him. It's very similar to a lot of RPG games and such like, if you've played any of those in the past. It has like text and like this menu. You can select different options. There's some dialogue, which I generated with this cool AI tool called Suno. Shout out to those guys. I'll also drop a link to them in the chat if anyone is curious. I see people saying they're in there. I'm in a private session, so it doesn't. So I'm not going to see you guys running around, but have fun in there. But yeah, you can like use the Q and E buttons to like select different options, and he'll reply to you and give you information. And this is all done with visual scripting, and this is just one of the sort of many things you can do with visual scripting. You can create dialogue systems like this. You could create puzzles or like escape rooms. Like you want to be crazy, you could try and remake like Call of Duty or something, or like Rocket League, whatever tickles your fancy, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to be here to sort of show you the ropes. I won't be going super basic because I'm going to assume people might be familiar with scripting and stuff like that, as it's a hackathon, and I'm sure you can pick up the basics on your own as we go. So here we are inside of Unity, inside of the Mona SDK. We have our own SDK project that's built inside of Unity that you need to use to build spaces. There's more information about that in our docs, which you can find on the Mona website. So here we are. This is this space that I threw together really quickly in Blender. It's not super pretty, but it's okay. So with the dialogue system, obviously you're sort of speaking to this character here. So we have this like hologram character. On this character, we have an animator. Anime has two states. It's super basic. He has like a talking state and an idle state. So when he's talking, he switches to the talking state and vice versa. These are just some like animations I got from Mixamo. If you want animations, it's a great resource. But yeah, so essentially, that's outside of visual scripting. This is like the animation system, but it's controlled by the visual script. So when you first walk up the stairs, there is this collider here, and this collider interacts with the visual script that's on it. It's called the activator. And essentially what happens is when a player walks into this, it's going to enable this conversation game object. And this is the manager that manages the whole conversation. So if I press play, I actually have a few nodes up here, which sort of allow it to work inside of the editor. But you can see what will happen is the conversation, this activator will start this conversation game object, and that will sort of get everything rolling. It's just super easy to do. in visual scripting, we have this concept of event nodes. Event nodes are something that get triggered when you press a hotkey or when the game starts, or there's various event nodes inside of the visual scripting graph that you can access. You can
Sorry,
also create
Tom.
your own. Yes.
Sorry, I wonder if you could just zoom in ever so slightly into those at the bottom there.
Is this better? Can you see? If I go full screen? Unfortunately, I actually can't zoom in on this. This is like a fixed size.
Okay, no problem. I mean, you're doing a great job of
Yep.
explaining, so that's fine. But yeah,
Yep.
no
So
problem.
this is the activator. It's very basic. Essentially, when you walk into this collider, it will trigger this event, this on trigger enter event, and it will then try and get the tag of the object which triggered it. And in our case, we want the tag player because we only want to activate this when a player walks into the tag, and that will enable this other object which has its own visual script. As you can see, this visual script is much larger. This is the one that does the bulk of the logic for the dialogue system. But essentially, what is happening is inside of our game objects in this conversation, we have a UI system, and there's several objects for responses and several for inputs. You can see these are all individual objects, and they're labeled 1 through 3, or 1 through 2, depending which it is, because of the different number of options. But you could expand this type of system and have like a really expansive conversation system if you wanted. Obviously, this is just a demo, so it's just some like script that ChatGPT wrote for me. But if you wanted to have a full story or a tour guide or I don't know, a helper, you could do all that sort of stuff with this type of system, which is very cool. But yeah, so let's dive into this graph a bit. So it's sort of split into several categories. Some of these are like custom events that I've set up, and some of them are unit events. So it all starts with this on enable event. So the other script, when it enables this object, it goes to this on enable event, and it says to play this response, and I'm triggering a custom event down here. So this is the response event. So what this does is you give it a value, and depending which value you give it, it disables all events, and then it enables the one you want. So this correlates with the numbers of the responses in here. So you can see 0, 1, 2, 3 on the hierarchy. Maybe you can't see because it's really small, but hopefully you can get the idea. But yeah, you give it the number and it plays that event. And when it does this, it does a few other things as well. It sets the animator state of the NPC to the talking state. So he starts like waving his hands around and explaining. And then it also, there's a voice line. You probably can't hear it on when I showed you on the screen share, but if you go in the space yourself, there's voice lines. So we get the length of the voice line and we wait until it's finished, and then we go back to the selection state. The selection state is managed by these other events here, these 3. So there's a navigation event, there's a highlight event, and there's a select event. These navigation event and highlight event, they're closely related. Essentially, when you are in the experience and you're pressing cycle, you might be able to see down here if I zoom in. It's going to trigger these events. Oh, you can't really see. Uni is being nasty to me. But yeah, this will trigger this navigation event. Essentially, we're looping through the elements in this like input list. There's 3 inputs, so there's a value of 3, and then it overflows. So if you go to 4, it goes back to 0, and so on. But essentially, this keeps track of which option you have selected, and then the highlight event is what is changing the color. So if you look when you're changing, it like changes the colors and stuff of the UI element. So this is what manages that. This is called from this. It's kind of just like a visual thing. And then the select event is the one that triggers when you actually like select an option. So like, I was like, whoa, what are you? It's going to tell me it's a hologram. And it's going to do that whole business. And this is triggered by this. This is very basic. Essentially, it just takes the currently selected object from the highlight from the navigation event, and it's stored in a variable on the side here. And then there's a switch statement that triggers the correct response. But yeah, as you can see, like there's not that many nodes. It does seem a bit scary at first, but once you dive into it, it's not that complicated. This sort of sample project will be available after the project for people to like rip into and try and reverse engineer. I see a question: is visual scripting similar to scripting in Second Life? I've never actually used scripting in Second Life, but it's very similar to like Unreal Blueprints. If you have an experience with that. A lot of these visual scripting systems are very similar in design. They all have like nodes, obviously, and then you have like variables and events. So if you've used something like Second Life, I'm sure you could probably dive into something like this and pick it up very quickly. A bit of Unity knowledge would definitely be helpful. There's certain events called life cycle events, which trigger at certain times in Unity, such as like when the game starts or once every frame and stuff like that. So if you had some Unity knowledge, you would have some background knowledge on those already. If not, there's not that many of them. They're fairly easy to learn. But yeah, this is kind of an overview on how this works. We do have some other visual scripting samples already in. We have this model library with some assets in it here. Give it a minute to load. And this has some assets as well. We have this recently launched Mono Capture, which has its own set of visual scripts. It's slightly more complicated than this, but that's also a good project to dive into if you're wanting to sort of get into it. Yeah, I'm kind of happy to take some questions if anyone has any. I'll try my best to answer them. But let me scroll through, see if there is any going already.
Of course, yeah. Everybody do feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Tom, I mean, I'd love to start off myself. I see Quazon is following up, but yeah, I don't know if perhaps you could share some highlights of some projects which have been built. Obviously, you mentioned that the opportunities are nearly kind of endless as to what people may build, but I just wondered if you had any particular highlights yourself.
Yep. So this space that I linked actually it polls to two other spaces with a bunch of interactive features. So if you're in here, like these two things are polls. If you look at them and left click, you can like jump into some other spaces that have previously been created. Another modern employee shot out of Scoob, and it has this like really cool sort of system where the whole map like rotates and stuff. It's like a puzzle space. If you want to know more about it, you can ask the NPC guy. He'll tell you all about it. Yeah. Can you script a scene? What do you mean by that? Like, can you move objects around? You can totally move objects around. You could potentially create like a visual script that generates the scene when the level started and have like a randomized like world every time, like that as well. That would be possible. That's what you mean. That's not what you mean to clarify.
Yeah, Quazon, feel free to expand on that if that's not quite what you meant. There's also another question, Tom, which says, how easy would it be to make these VS events available on Mona Library as drag and drop templates for their individual builds and use cases?
Yep. So for this specific like NPC sample project, I'll probably clean it up a little bit and then we'll put that on the Mono library. In terms of these events themselves, I think they're specific to graphs. I don't know if you can reference scripts between graphs. That might be something for us to look into. But we can totally like upload like individual graphs as like assets, and you could download them that way. We could distribute those through the Mono library or Discord or whatever we decide we want to do that.
Amazing. Quazon, can you create a game?
Yep, you can totally create a game. The imagination is the limit. It's a full like it's almost the full Unity API is accessible through visual scripting. You could create like I don't know a basketball game. I know there is a basketball game somewhere that someone created. If you search on the Mono Discord, perhaps you'll find it. I know there was another guy. He built this like spaceship, but you have to like fly around like a racing game. That was very cool. But yeah, you can totally create games. We're also looking at adding a bunch of like custom nodes that will allow you to do things like access external APIs and stuff like that. So once that opens, like people will be able to do even more stuff. I see a link to the basketball game. If anyone wants to check that out, it's in the chat. Thank you, Kurt.
That's amazing. Are there any libraries or a general link where people can go to potentially look at the full catalogue of games? I don't know if we could possibly get a link to that, or Tom, if you want to explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, the best place to find spaces is just go to monoverse.com/marketplace. Yeah, there's a link to that here. This has all of our minted spaces. A lot of spaces are not minted. Those ones will not necessarily be here. Some of them might be. But yeah, if you want to check out spaces, definitely check this out. There's a lot of awesome stuff going on. I highly recommend a lot of them. Fallen Giant has a lot of cool interactivity with like cutscenes and stuff like that. But yeah, there's like hundreds and hundreds of spaces to go through. Not all of them have interactivity. Some of them do, some of them don't. But yeah, another great place to find spaces is the Monoverse Discord. A lot of people post like work in progress things that they're building there. I can drop a link to that as well. Yep.
Amazing. And yeah, Tom, I don't know if you've got anything else planned. Please do tell me if I'm jumping in, but perhaps for people who are looking to use Mona, I'm not sure if you could share any insights as to where they could get started in terms of building their projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned at the start, we have our own SDK. You can find this on our webpage or on GitHub itself. Let me pull it up. Here it is. Yep, you can download our sort of star project on GitHub, and you can load that into Unity. There's full like tutorial on how it's all done in the README. You can go in, you can start importing objects from your favorite 3D tools, whether you're a Blender guy or anything. If you don't have any 3D experience, you can still take part in Mona. We have this library of assets you can use, like drag and drop style. You can find like free assets online and like kit bash spaces that way. You don't have to be a 3D artist to take part in Mona.
Yeah, I see somebody's just commented in the chat saying there are tons of helpful docs. Yeah, to all of the participants currently here, please do make use of all the links being dropped in the chat. And of course, to anybody watching the recording of this session, all of these links will be shared in the description of the video as well. So yeah, lots of links being shared. So please do feel free to browse through those. Tom, I've just noticed a question in the question panel, which says, how easy would it be to make these VS events available on, sorry, that was just a replication from the previous chat. So
yeah. But yeah, these types, for example, with this dialogue system, we could extend this. Like I mentioned, you could add more dialogue. It doesn't have to be a hologram. He could be like an NPC that like walked around the map you could talk to. You can make him a quest giver, make your own quest system or something if you wanted. You could like hook it up to an inventory system or like skills and stuff. You can kind of do almost everything you can do in Unity within the visual scripting system, and then bring that into a space in Mona and create some like really cool interactive experiences. The concept of this is not like just take this; it's to try and like learn from these sort of things and then come up with your own ideas. So hopefully, we'll inspire people to have a play around of it. My recommendation for anyone trying to learn this stuff is just play around with it. If you get stuck, there's lots and lots of tutorials and stuff online. Or you can ask your favorite AI chatbot. I'm sure he'll have an opinion. But yeah, if no one has any more questions. we wrap up.
Tom, perhaps one more, just in terms of the bounties and people who are looking to build their projects. Obviously, you've shared that people can kind of use this and build whatever they like. And yeah, just if you could confirm in terms of the bounties and the hackathon, the types of projects people might want to build, or whether you're happy to just see any kind of open-ended things being built on the platform.
Yeah, I believe there is some like specific bounties for certain types of things. I actually don't know what they are. I'm actually part of the development team. I'm just sort of here. If you want more information on that, there's probably some links to what here in chat, or you can join them on a Discord or check out the socials. I'm sure they'll have specific information on that. Yep, there we go. Thank you very much.
Of course, yeah. So there's a link there to the website. Apologies, and so just to clarify, the first bounty, yes, Tom, loading them up, perfect. So if you scroll down, you should see Mona. There we go.
Yep, here we go. So there's like some specific bounties. Best website or app that uses Mona spaces and avatars in interesting ways. We have this whole like avatar system. We use the VRM avatar system, which is this like interoperable system that you can use on many platforms. Yeah, so you can definitely interact with avatars and visual scripting if you get a bit creative. If you have any questions regarding any of that stuff, definitely hop in the Monoverse Discord, and I'm always there to answer questions, as well as lots of other people as well. And then we have the best interactive components using visual scripting. So this would be stuff like what we've built here. So some things that come to mind would be, I don't know, maybe you want to create a mini map for your space. Maybe you have a really big space, you keep getting lost. You have like a map or something. Maybe you want a jetpack. I don't know. Maybe you're ready like football and you want to play some football, or soccer for our American friends.
Yeah, amazing. I think I'm really interested to see for this particular bounty what people come up with. It seems like people's imaginations could get carried away, but I'm sure, yeah, some really cool projects will be built. So unless there are any more questions for now, just while we wrap up, as I've mentioned, all of the links are being shared in the chat. You have the Discord zone on the Encode server where you can ask any questions to the Mona team. And as Tom mentioned as well, I believe there's a Mona Discord channel as well. So just whilst we see some background images of a really cool rocket game, yeah, I'd just love to thank the Mona team one last time. Tom, for a really cool session. Thank you very much for taking us through that. And also to the rest of the team for sharing all of the docs and resources in the chat. So yeah, thank you very much to the team. Once again, thank you to all of our participants for attending all of the workshops. It's been really great to see you here, and we do hope you have enjoyed them, but also gained some insights to help you build your project. So we'll be in touch very shortly. A message will go out tomorrow to next steps for you all. But if you do have any questions or problems with building your projects, you can reach out to me for general questions, and you can also reach out to all of our sponsors in the sponsor zones for any technical issues or problems that you're encountering. So yeah, all do keep in touch. We're really excited to see what you all build. And for one final time, I'd just like to thank Tom and the team once again for a really incredible session. So thank you all very much, and we'll keep in touch and see you soon.
Yep, thank you all.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.